Hello, everyone. For this summer, we're going to be doing something a little bit different here on Vespers. It's going to be something called Take Five, where over the next few weeks, we're going to just take 5 minutes to maybe do a short devotional over one scripture in hopes that it might help you take one step closer to Jesus. So today's verse of scripture is from John chapter 3, verse 30, and it says this: He must become greater and greater, and I must become less and less. I think back when I was younger and I had this need to be known, to make a mark for myself. It led me to be a pretty driven person for much of my young adult years. I think many of us, we go through that phase when we're younger, don't we? We we want to do great things, we want to make a difference, and we really don't mind at all if there any notoriety or greatness happens to come along our way in the process. All of us who choose to follow Jesus would say that we want to make Christ greater, to make him greater known. But how many of us want it enough that we want to make ourselves less? Nothing wrong in making a difference in people's lives in this world, nothing at all. Many big dreams are God-given. But think about this today. What are your desires for greatness? Are they God-given or are they self-motivated? Do they make you somehow in the process more loved, more wealthy, more famous, or God? Is your motivation behind what you do really just focused on doing others good, or using it as a means at times to make yourself look good? When John the Baptist said this verse here, in verse 30 of chapter 3, he was at a stage of his life where he was getting all kinds of notoriety and attention. By this point, even the nation's leaders in Israel knew John by name. He had his own staff, his own disciples following him around, and his disciples actually felt threatened by Jesus gaining notoriety. John remembered his place in this moment, his motivation for all he did, and he wisely said, Jesus, he must become greater, and I have to become less. God's preserved that in Scripture for you and me too. If the things we're doing are motivated by making a name for ourselves, then we're off. God doesn't want to bless that. He's not concerned about making you famous. In fact, it gets in the way of us reflecting Jesus. In the verse just before this one, John even says in verse 29, our joy will be complete in life, not when we become greater, but when we become less. I mean, how crazy is that? Do you believe that? I do. I do now. So think about that. Talk with God about that today. You and I must become less so Christ can become greater. What will that look like for you this week and in the days ahead? What is it about you, your life, your desires for more, your desires for accomplishment or greatness even in some way, that's getting in the way of your becoming less? What might God be asking of you that gets you off center stage and puts Christ there in your place? The world fights against this. We live in a world where everybody is focused on more for themselves, not less. Yet that's where true joy lies, in the less. Less stuff, less self-focus, less striving for more. This week, how might shifting your ambitions, your goals, and your dreams a little bit like this actually, in the long run, actually make you more joyful, not less, at peace with yourself and less stressed? Hope that's been a blessing for you this week. Think about that this week from John chapter 3, verse 30, and I'll see you again next week. God bless.